The transition altitude and the transition level are used for altimeter changes from actual QNH to 1013 hectopascal and back. The vertical position below the transition altitude is specified as altitude. The vertical position above the transition altitude is specified as flight level. Above the transition altitude, the aircraft flies along surfaces of constant atmospheric pressure, based on the altimeter subscale setting of 1013 hectopascal. During descent, as the pilot must know his vertical position above the surrounding terrain, a QNH setting becomes necessary. This information is made available to the pilot via the ATIS. The altimeter subscale setting has to be set from 1013 hectopascal back to the actual QNH. The transition altitude is the altitude above the airport at which the altimeter subscale is reset to standard 1013 hectopascal. The transition altitude is specified for every airport by the state in which the airport is located. However, there can also be a general transition altitude for a whole state specified, such as the USA. The calculated height of the transition altitude is rounded up to the nearest 1,000 feet, and shall be as low as possible, but normally not less than 3,000 feet. The transition altitudes are published in the AIP and can be found on instrument plates. The transition level is the flight level at which the altimeter is reset to the appropriate actual QNH. The transition level is defined as the first flight level above the transition altitude. However, the actual transition level depends upon the actual QNH and can thus vary. Therefore, the transition level is passed to the aircraft with the approach or landing clearance or via ATIS. Let's have a look at an example to calculate the actual transition level. The transition altitude is 4,000 feet, and the QNH is 1,005 hectopascal. The actual QNH is lower than standard. 1013 minus 1005 equals 8 hectopascal. 8 hectopascal corresponds to 8 times 27 feet, 216 feet. The transition level has to be raised to the next flight level, that is, in this case, flight level 045. The transition layer is the vertical space between transition altitude and transition level. However, the transition layer is operationally insignificant.